In this episode of A Girl and a Gun, we discuss the Quicktime Gamma Bug. We look at the latest update to Adobe's Creative Cloud Suite, and Hayao Miyazaki retires from filmmaking.
A Girl and a Gun, episode 19, recorded on the 12th of the 9th, 2013, Gamma Schmamma.
All you need to make a movie is a girl and a gun. Come along and join the party. I was there at the sun.
Hello, welcome to A Girl and a Gun, the show for filmmakers and content creators. I am Phil Moore, and I'm joined as always by John Maisels. Hello, John.
Hello. Phil, you make it just sound so completely exciting. Hello.
It is! It's exciting. We're doing a new show.
We are. A new series, a new year, a new... no, it's not a new
And a
year.
new group of students.
No, and a totally new group of... And a new camera too.
New camera. In fact, this was last week was the first episode we did with this group, and it actually went pretty well, technically speaking.
For this group?
For this group.
Yeah.
It's being the first episode
We'll
that
talk
they've done.
to them later.
We'll see how we go this week.
They're experimenting with the dissolve knob at the moment.
They are at the moment.
A little later on, they're going to experiment with the talent knob, so we'd better get on with it.
All right, let's first look at the breaking news for this week. Not a lot of news this week, actually.
Oh, that was exciting. That was a great throw.
It is, but we have a few things. Firstly, just briefly, the Screen Producers Association of Australia, SPA, have come to an agreement with the Media Entertainment Arts Alliance, MEAA, about new pay rates for actors for television. Basically, they get 3.5% backdated to September, 2.5% on October 1, 2.5% on November 1st. It adds up to 11% increase by July next year.
11%'s, you know, an amount.
Which is pretty good. This is the same increase that actors working on Home and Away and Winners and Losers have already received through separate deals with Channel 7. So now this is available to all actors on all TV. That's the new deal, and it's been ratified by Fair Work Australia. So yay, actors get a pay rise.
The new deal.
The new deal for actors.
New deal.
That's it. That's that one. More importantly, perhaps, on a technical front, we've known for a while now that the government is selling off bandwidth.
Well, they've sold it.
Well,
They've actually sold it. The auction has happened.
The 4G broadband, you know, for mobile phones and networks. And a lot of the frequency bandwidth that they're selling previously was being used by wireless microphones similar to these. Well, cheaper versions of these.
No, I didn't like the way you put that there. It wasn't that it was being used by, it was that it was available for radio mics to drop in.
Because nothing else was using it.
As secondary users in what was called the white space.
Right, okay.
So the radio mics could make use of that on a non-interference basis.
Right.
And that was particularly true in the television band, so depending on where you were in the country, there'd be frequency blocks that you could drop into between the existing television stations, and that was cool for radio mics. Well, now that spectrum has been sold.
Do you remember what the spectrum is, what the numbers are?
No, it's just, you know, dollars. It's in billions
Basically,
of dollars.
wireless microphones operating in the 700 megahertz band.
Yeah.
Could be used without breaking the law previously.
Which is the high end of the VHF TV band. So, and by the way, we've already lost bits of space in there anyway, because the white space between channels 7 and 9 and between 9 and 10 had already been handed over for digital television transmissions. So anyway, now that spectrum has been sold off, there is a period during which, a sort of a grace period, during which if you are using radio mics in those frequencies, you need to, what's the technical term? Get off.
Yes. It actually becomes illegal from January the 1st, 2015. So you've still got 1.5 years or so to go. But cheaper wireless microphones where you cannot change the frequency and they're hardwired to those frequencies will become illegal, and you'll face up to $5,000 fines and jail time if you're using that bandwidth once it, you know, after January 1st, 2015.
And what the ACMA was worried about, the regulator, the Communication Media Authority, is worried about the grey market, which is imports, say via eBay or other sources, where the microphones are coming into the country on the wrong channels, on channels that are now going to become useless.
Yes.
And the first big message is stop buying those now.
Yes.
I mean, it's not even really worth buying it to get a year of use out of it.
Well, the irony is that most of these cheaper sets are being used by people who can only afford the cheaper sets, which is schools or churches, and, you know, smaller, not professionals necessarily, who don't even realise it's going to be an issue.
No.
And if they do, it's going to be a very expensive upgrade for them to upgrade all of the equipment that they've got.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's some great information, though, available on the web. You could go to the ACETA website, ACETA. You can go to JANS and you can go to Syntec, both of whom have sort of calculator things, spreadsheet things that will enable you to find the correct block of frequencies for your location.
That was the next story you just saw. That's not.
Well, okay. So do you want to segue through on that?
It looks like it. So they've jumped us through to the next story, which is in fact Adobe Creative Cloud. There's a new update coming.
Hang on, what's that got to do with what I was just talking about?
Nothing whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
But it came on screen, so I just wanted to explain what that was.
Okay.
Sorry, but yes. If you've got old microphones, have a look in upgrading them if it may become an issue in a year or so time. A new version of Creative Cloud. I'm using Creative Cloud at the moment.
Yes.
This is the Adobe subscription model. So you subscribe on a monthly or annual basis, and it means from that point on, you get the updates as soon as they're pushed out. And there's already been one or two
Whether
updates.
they work or not.
And they're working so far. They're working fine.
Oh.
There's a major new update coming in a few weeks' time. It in particular affects Adobe Premiere Pro. There is better integration with SpeedGrade, which is the grading software they have. So you can take your timeline into SpeedGrade and it'll understand that better. So the workflow between the two is much better. They said
You would sort of hope that if there was an integrated suite that it would work.
well, SpeedGrade was bought into the suite, so it's taken them a couple of versions to sort of get it fully integrated. That's what happens. It was a separate program to start with. More than 150 features. There's an iPad companion app, which especially can be used with Prelude Live, which is their on-set logging app, which is pretty bare bones, I must admit, at the moment, so it needs to be updated a bit. After Effects. SpeedGrade also, by the way, now supports the Adobe Mercury playback engine, which is their built-in using the CUDA cores from NVIDIA graphics cards to speed things up along there. Very useful.
I'm glad you're saying that.
Yes?
Yeah, did you understand a word of what he just said?
People who are using Premiere, they know what the Mercury engine is and they know what the NVIDIA
Yeah, what
CUDA
about the
core...
people who aren't using this stuff?
It'll still work
Who
without
are
that.
relying on us to give them the information that they need in order to be able to make those.
If you're
important
using the Adobe suite, especially the video tools, ideally you should have an NVIDIA card with the CUDA, which is the graphics chips.
Yeah,
in
I
it.
know what an NVIDIA.
Right.
Sorry,
No.
I know.
Yes.
Just write in, by the way, if you don't understand any of this, veronica@agirlandagun.com.
Veronica@girlandagun.tv if you want to make
.tv.
this a pick my brain question to find
Yeah,
out
I know.
more.
Just like if you want to know, just send us the email. Bomb us.
Yes.
Okay.
After Effects, there's been native support for Ultra HD and 4K and RAW formats, including the Red Dragon 6K format within Premiere Pro. Within After Effects, there's a new rigid mask tracker. And I'll quote here, hang on, designed to eliminate time-consuming rotoscoping tasks by allowing effects to be attached to be masks as they track against moving video. I'm not quite sure what that means. And they've tried a couple of times in the past to make rotoscoping easier. It's never quite worked seamlessly. This is another attempt. Anything that makes rotoscoping easier is a godsend in my book.
Sure.
As soon as this comes out, I'll let you know more about what that exactly is, but it looks interesting. Developed Photoshop, there's more from HD. They've increased the speed of the warp stabilizer, which is a brilliant tool.
That'd be great for new episodes of Star Trek.
Any of that handheld shake cam, the warp stabilizer does a brilliant job in.
Well, it takes it
getting
out.
Takes it out.
The whole point of cinema verite is that it's going to look shaky.
Yeah, you don't want the shaky cam. Anyway, lots of stuff there. Also, better support for GoPro footage within Prelude. If you've got the Adobe suite, especially Premiere, After Effects, etc., and you're using the CC suite, look forward to that update. Looks cool. Okay, moving right along. Still on video.
Yes.
This has been a long-going issue, and I've encountered this back in 2005, for example, which is the thing called the Quicktime Gamma Bug. I saw a recent discussion on the DLF forum, which is the Digital Labourers Federation forum. Anyone who's in this industry.
Sorry, the Digital
Labourers Federation, which is dlf.org, I believe.
Okay. It's a new one on me.
If you're in this industry, check it out. It's worthwhile being part of. There was a discussion on there recently about the Quicktime Gamma Bug and various people encountering it and offering solutions. This will be in our show notes, so if you want to track down these the websites that we're referring to here, they'll be in our show notes on the website, girlandagun.tv.
Right.
But basically it says here, the QuickTime player, this basically comes down to QuickTime, causes an H.264 and MPEG-4 encoded video to look washed out. It effectively looks like the gamma shifts. It's commonly referred to as the QuickTime Gamma Bug, but it's really a reduction in contrast. And there are some graphics there, we saw one just then. What it comes down to is they're changing the colour space into, what was it called? I told you before what it was, Rec 601.
Well, Rec 601, I mean, this goes back to the 1980s. Rec 601 describes how, I was going to say television signals, that's probably oversimplification, but how that's put into digital domain. So it describes how you map the YUV values, the component video values, how you treat them, how many bits you give them, what the values are. Well, if you're in an RGB space, you can go from, say, nothing, 0, up to full number of bits. If you've got 8 bits,
255,
value of 255 decimal. But you don't normally use all of that. There are some bits at the bottom that you don't use and some bits at the top that you don't use. And Rec 601 talks about that. Well, if the software comes along and uses different bit mappings, you will get, well, the technical term is crap. It'll be crap. And so they've got it wrong, basically, and they've got it wrong over some amount of time. By the way, this is not the first time this has happened. Exactly the same thing happened in the early days of MIDI, where like the very first Yamaha synthesizers only went as high as DX7 only went as high as 99, whereas later on it went to 127. So there's all these extra values that you couldn't use for your notes. Anyway, similar sort of thing. What we've now got is a challenge, which is compatibility.
Well, there's various, without going too deep into the technicalities of it, because it's very technical, basically it comes down to...
That was very technical?
It gets deeper than that.
Yeah, oh, right.
If you're using QuickTime, and especially if you're moving between Mac and PC systems, you notice this shift, and it's difficult to fix sometimes. There are people that offer fixes in the render process. If you're using Final Cut Pro, for example, there's some fixes in there. My solution is don't use QuickTime.
Yeah, well,
you don't need to use QuickTime anymore, to be honest, even on a Mac.
Yeah.
Apple have, if you're using QuickTime professionally, you should be using version 7. Don't go to 10 because it's been scaled right back. They're pulling out all the really high-end features. And Apple themselves are thinking of dropping QuickTime. Some people don't like that. I'm of the opinion it's a pretty old technology now. It was great in its day. It was revolutionary when it first came out.
As a codec, I mean, there's still bits of the QuickTime standard. There's still bits of the QuickTime standard that will continue to be used. So, for instance, the transport layer on MPEG-4 is QuickTime.
And that's one of the reasons why they had trouble upgrading Final Cut Pro beyond 7, because it was built on QuickTime and it was limited to various restrictions. They could not get into high def or 4K resolutions properly because of the QuickTime didn't handle it.
How long do you reckon we could talk about this before we get so completely out of our depth that people are just going to send
We're already out
nasty
of our
grams to...
If you look at the one that's on drastic.tv, it gives you... it gets very technical. Anyway, look at our show notes. There's links to these websites if you really want to chase this down.
And you can search on the QuickTime Gamma Bug, which will take that'll give you a couple of good hits.
Moving right along. Sony have just released a new Cine Alta high-end cinema camera, the F55, which is a 4K camera. Yet another. Sony make some great high-end video cameras, obviously, for cinema production, and now this is their flagship 4K camera, basically. I'm not going to go into details here, but if you're into cinematography, if you're into this, check out the pro.sony.com website, look for the F55, find out about it. I've yet to play with one. I'm not going to go into the details here, as I say, but it's 4K, there's RAW, all the stuff you would want from a high-end camera appears to be here. I'd love a cinematographer to write to us and say why it's good and why there might be little things bad about it, but it looks pretty good.
In fact, if you're a cinematographer and you want to come in here and be part of this show, write to anybody but us.
No, look, we've had one cinematographer as a guest so far, Pete DeVries. I'm happy to have other people come in if they have certain skills or experience.
We remember Pete DeVries. We remember his impact. It was wafer thin.
Wafer thin. Moving along. Here on Studio Daily, this is, again, big news kind of for the film industry. Kodak have been in Chapter 11 for a while and almost out of business. They've now restructured the company. They're basically getting rid of their consumer divisions, which is like little handheld consumer cameras, etc. They're focusing on film. Film for archive, film for as a capture medium for cinema production. And so they're focusing on filmmakers. They want to go back to their roots effectively. And it'll be a very small market. Like one of the questions here is who is still shooting film? Well, there are cinematographers and directors that like to still. Film prints, and that means there are certain labs in the world that, oh, thank God, there's still a life in film and we still have a business, because Kodak at least is still making it.
It's still pretty huge in some countries too. Like Scandinavia is now pretty much fully electronic, but India, it's going to be a very long time, I think, before the Indian film industry becomes electronic.
Yeah, there will always be cinematographers that will want to work on film as long as it's around, and thanks to Kodak now, I think it still will be around for a while. It'll be a niche market, but if they own that niche, they'll survive, I think, as a result of that. And it's definitely still, to be honest, the best archiving medium for movies.
Yes, certainly is.
You know, you can't store a hard drive and expect it to come back in 50 years' time.
But you can expect archival film to come
so
back.
it's still the best medium for archiving.
Although
films.
I did see about 3 months ago, I saw what is apparently the very last of the SMPTE test film stock.
Yeah?
Yep. They have found all of the film stock that can possibly be used to make the test films that people used to use to line up projectors.
Right.
And
they've run out.
Well, we've got the last of the stock.
Right.
After that, no more stock is being made.
Well, maybe it'll be made now.
No more stock is being made.
No more at all. Anyway, good luck, Kodak, with your new direction. I hope they're still around for many years to come, to be honest, because I've never actually shot on film, and I don't know that I would if I did a big film, but I still like the fact that some people want to, and it's a choice. It becomes a serious option.
I shot on film once.
Yep.
Yeah, used colour reversal film. Is it like far enough back that you could get newsreel film? Now, back when the news film was shot.
Yep.
Sorry, TV news
When
was
TV
shot
news
on
was shot
film.
on 16 or something, yeah.
And we shot this 8.5-minute feature on 4 rolls of film, which means we actually only lost about a minute and a half of the reel.
There's a certain romance to film after all. And
It was
some people-
wonderful fun, you know, working with the white gloves.
Well, speaking of the good old days of film, one of the legends, to be honest, of filmmaking, this is animated filmmaking though, I must admit,
Yes.
Hayao Miyazaki, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is retiring from filmmaking. Miyazaki, the Ghibli film studios in Japan, some of the greatest all-time animated films ever, better than Disney in my opinion. Things like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. The list is, every single one that he's been involved in is just an awesome film. Ponyo, I'm trying to find where.
And
where
look,
we
I
are
think
here.
there's 3 things
Princess
that you
Mononoke, yes.
Yeah, three things that you'd say about Miyazaki's filmmaking. The first thing is, it always had good stories. You could watch it and just enjoy the experience of being immersed. Secondly, this absolutely unique look. You could tell it was a Miyazaki
Well, we've
film.
got his final film is about to be released.
And I'm not going to get to the third one, but it doesn't matter.
The third. Well, what's your third point?
I've
Sorry?
forgotten now. You interrupted
Oh,
me.
sorry, because you mentioned the look, and I want to go. This final film called The Wind Rises, and we have a bit of the trailer lined up here. So let's have a look at a bit of Miyazaki's most recent work, Wind Rises. Over the top of this one. You can see there the animation style. It's all 2D animation. There's no CGI in any of this stuff. It's all traditional 2D animation.
Yeah.
And the beauty of his films is they're very character-based. And if you're not going to show the film, you can turn the sound off there. There tends to be, unlike Hollywood films, unlike Disney films, it's not a battle of good versus evil. There's no antagonist in most of his stories. It's the journey of discovery for our central character, who's usually a child character of some kind. Spirited Away is a great example, where she encounters all sorts of challenges, but there's no villain. It's just making
there's
friends
sort
along
of,
the way.
but I mean, there's sort of people who are friendly and people who are not so friendly.
And
or
then she makes-
spirits who are friendly
yeah.
and not so friendly.
And they're not friendly until people realise, oh, they're just misunderstood, oh, they're just in pain, whatever it is, and she sorts it out.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. But you have to follow the story and work all this out. And as Phil says, it's none of it is black and white. So it all makes you think.
And they're wonderful, and there's so many surprises in this film. Howl's Moving Castle is full of unusual surprises, plot twists that you would never expect. But when you look at the whole thing, it's like, that was brilliant. That was masterful storytelling, frankly.
Yes.
Considering there's really no good and evil for the most part in the way that they're told. A master of filmmaker, master of storytelling, Hayao Miyazaki, even though he's retiring, a great body of work to look back on. I'm still waiting for the Blu-ray collection of all of these to come out. A few of them have been released on Blu-ray, but I want the box set of all of these things. So I hope, even though he's retiring, his son has continued. So within Ghibli, his son has been making some of the films, and there are others in the studio still working, of course. So hopefully we won't be announcing his death for a very long time yet.
No, I hope not. But I love the we picked this up from Mice Chat, and fans shocked.
Fans shocked. Oh, well, yes, I am shocked. I thought I wanted him to keep on going forever, but at least there's one more film there for us to enjoy. That's it. That's basically the news of the week. We haven't got much else left.
It's been a very quiet
It's been
news
a
week
very
this
quiet week, yeah.
Probably something to do with the Australian election.
You know what the big news was this week, which has nothing to do with our show, to be honest? Apple released the iPhone 5 S and the 5C, which I'm not going to talk about because it's not our market. You know.
I wasn't even watching. I didn't even
No.
know that had happened. So who cares? Of course, this week as we go to air, IBC is happening, the second largest broadcast and media event in the world. That's happening in Amsterdam right now. And we're probably going to get some reports back from Amsterdam for next week's show.
You're going to chase up and see what's happening at IBC?
We'll see if we can get some good technology stories to come in.
In fact, I saw a story, there wasn't much detail about a new Panasonic camera about to be released there.
Yeah.
A very wide panoramic view type camera.
Yeah, and I saw something this morning that Ross has now released. They've released some new products, some extensions to their existing range, but they've also dropped the prices. And this is scary. They have dropped the prices now where a very, very powerful 3ME switcher with, I don't know, 48 inputs is now like $50,000 or something or less.
Well, that's it for this, because we don't have a product review for this episode. And in fact, as I said last week, we're breaking this up into 2 episodes, news and reviews and interviews. So in our next episode coming up, we'll have a special guest interviewer and we'll do our Pick My Bone thing. But for today, that's it. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Phil.
And thank you all for watching. For now, that's a wrap.